this is a lesson I've actually been meaning to do, and it came through a member request. And what I've been asked is to demonstrate how I would produce quite a nice rendered site plan, which looks something like that. It's got some textures, got some nice trees and some nice shadowing, but one that also combines a little bit of a look of Google Maps. The thing that stands out really is the labeling and the Google, the Google pins. So I would recommend using both Photoshop and InDesign. We'll use Photoshop for the nice textures and shadows, and then we'll use InDesign for the labeling. So I'm using a project that is a housing scheme. This is actually a completed housing scheme now by Studio RBA, and the reason I wanted to start here in CAD is to actually just show that you can use colours in your CAD software to give a little bit of an extra backdrop to what you're showing. And I would recommend that because it just gives you a bit of a starting point when you're in Photoshop. It just gives it a bit of a backing, the change of tone between different grass types and things like that, and identifying the path just gives you a really big help. And sometimes as well, it actually assists in selecting things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw, well, I'm going to create a layer first and call it plot boundary. And then I'm going to turn it off when you do plot it to PDF. So something like that. So I'm just selecting that region. I'll plot it still to an A1 sheet. And then I'll call this a coloured site plan. And then what I'll do is I'll turn off then all the various colours and the like, just so we're left with line work. Like so. I'm going to keep the building fills around the site. There's only a handful on show, obviously, and we won't shade them. We're just going to provide shadow for the buildings in our demise. Talking of which, I'll turn that off. Then select the same region. Plot. And we'll just call that line work. Site plan. And then jump into Photoshop. Keep them at 300 resolution. The good thing with InDesign as well is that it actually controls file sizes a lot better than Photoshop does, so it's another good reason to kind of finish there. So then we've got the line work on top. I held shift, by the way, when I was moving that across, which keeps it centered. And in this backdrop, we can go really low with it. Sorry, let me just make another layer beneath. Just give it a white fill. Might go more than that, but we'll see as the texturing kicks in. So there we are. There's the drawing of, you know, very basic set of coloured fills. Make sure you get into the habit of grouping everything. Not everything, but, you know, as in separate groups. So if I do if I call that drawing, and then just pop that in there. Then we want to go to a texture website. My favourite is Polygon. And then what you want to do is you want to find textures that are applicable to this project, grass being a fundamental one. So we'll download that one, and then we'll go for something that's a little more pristine. So we'll go for that one. So 3 different grasses because we kind of got 3 different tones. I'm going to keep the... No, I was going to say I'll keep the roofs as a colour, but we can demonstrate that as well. That one I'll do. Shingles. Then let's go for the gravel for the paths. A paving for the road. Yeah, something like that. We're just waiting for them to download. Okay. I'll just move the others across for now. Aukey rendered site plan. Let's call it textures. I thought it might do that. Hold on. Actually, no. You know what? We can work with that because all we want to keep are the colours. So I can then just then we can delete that, and then we'll just do the same. That'll do. I'll just set this back because I know the one I'm looking for now. It's the one that says colour in its name. And it'll just be variation 1. sorry, green leaves, colour AK. That's the good thing with Polygon, the massive textures. So colour, oh, we don't need them too. Okay, and then we'll just get the shingles. And that'll do. I could do the water and all that, but I'd just be repeating the task. Okay. And we want to just load them in. And then what I like to do is call it original, create a group and call it original textures. Make sure you're labeling them, so paving. And I say original because we're going to start messing with them. And once you start messing with the scale, they can pixelate if you want to scale them back up. Call that grass 1. And it doesn't matter if obviously that's not the size of a leaf relative to a house there, but I don't mind that. I think it's quite creative for rendered plans. So don't get too precious over the scale. So we're just ironing it in. Gravel, and then the last one, roof. You know what? Thinking about that, actually, yeah, we will leave the roof because again, we will just be repeating ourselves. So this is great because this will cover the vast majority of the site. So they're our original textures. Then what you want to do is you want to then create a new group. So come out of that one, and then give that a dedicated name to the texture. So gravel. So then what we'll do is Control J, and we'll move gravel into there. So then we can get rid of the original textures, or we can not rid, but we can hide it. And then what we want to do is we want to cover these paths here and the paths in the little park that we've designed. We want our drawing to sit at the top, the line work. And then all you need to do is duplicate. And I do like to merge them. Just a bit easier to manage your layers. You'd have hundreds of layers. And we may just be able to let's just go one more. Okay, so we're covering the site. Then add a layer mask and completely fill it with black. Then I will show you a couple of techniques to then bring that back into play. So the first one is the lasso, like so. I'm just being a bit rough because this isn't the one I'm going to use. And then with layer masks, you work in black and white. Black is remove, white is add. So if I then just go to a basic brush, I'll explain those trees brushes in a minute. If we then draw that back in using a white brush with the layer mask selected, you can then see how that works. However, one massive benefit of bringing the colour fills in is we can use it as a selection. So where's my magic wand? See the way I've got that selected? So then come back to the layer mask and then fill it with a white. You've got little overhangs there that you could just paint back in with a white brush, like so. It doesn't have to be too perfect. If you go over the lines a little bit, that's fine. Make sure the right layer's selected. Hold shift and then fill that in white. Sorry, I didn't have the mask selected there. That's what was up with it. Okay, so that's a nice quick selection method. And always be subtle with textures as well. So I've dropped that to 50%. We may go even less. So then let's call it grass. We will copy the 3 grasses. No, sorry, that won't work. Let's just go grass 1 then. Duplicate that and pop it in. I'll show you this one more time, and then I'll speed up the video to work through the remainder. So we've got our grass. We can turn the original ones off. Grass 1, copy. Now this is the nice clean grass. So this is going to be the grass for the gardens of the houses. Control J for duplicate. Merge all them. Add the mask. Full black fill to fully mask it out. That's what it's doing. And then what we want to do, nice and easy, is then select all the garden areas. And the reason for using masks is that it's what's kind of called in the industry as non-destructive. It means that you can edit it at a later point. Destructive being if you were to use a delete, you know, if you were to delete things out, you then couldn't get it back as easily as with the use of masks. And you can add to things as well quite easily. So for example, you know, I didn't even mean that. So, oh, wrong layer selected. Color fill. Let's select all these areas. Any other little gardens? You know, a little bit there. We can then go back to the mask and then paint that in. So it's very flexible. And in our game, you need to be You need to be ready for changes and comments and what have you. So these techniques keep you on the front foot. And then see this down here, there's nothing stopping me. Oh, sorry, I've used a rubber there. White brush needed. There we go. Lovely stuff. Okay, so I will speed up the video now to just get all the colours finished, all the textures finished, and then we'll move into shadows. Hello, welcome back. So we've filled in the rest of the site. I know not absolutely everything's filled in, but you get the idea with how to effectively use groups and masks and you know, high resolution textures to add that depth to the site plan. And it's this similar approach to floor plans as well. So now we're going to move into shadows, and we're going to add shadows to the properties first, and then we're going to use a slightly different technique for shadows to trees. So we'll do a new group, call it shadows, new layer in there, same again, shadows, and then for maximum control I do completely black. I will pick a random direction for the shadow, but my recommendation would be to actually pick a shadow that is realistic on an accurate sun path. And if you're ever unsure of that, jump into SketchUp, get it on the right orientation, turn the shadows on, and it gives you a really good insight into shadow direction and depth and all that sort of stuff. But for the purpose of this, I'm just going to iron in. It won't be amazingly accurate, but it'll do the job. The purpose of these rendered site plans isn't always to be 100% accurate. It's to represent depth. That's such an important part of any architectural drawing, is to show depth, heights of things, distance of things, and shadows is arguably the most effective way of achieving that. Going to cut that off there. These properties do have pitch roofs. I could have done something like that, but I'm just trying to keep it to the key kind of, you know, the fundamentals of what I'm trying to get across. Let's just make sure that I'm not going too far off piece with my shadow directions. I'm just going to select this add mode. It's a little quicker because I can make multiple selections in at once. As I say, just trying to keep it as consistent as possible, but just iron it in. An alternative to this, just while I'm kind of working through it, an alternative to this, I've obviously mentioned SketchUp. An alternative is to actually use SketchUp, and you can turn the darkness of the shadows right down to black, and you can bring that in. Obviously the scale will be a little bit off, but you can still bring that in scale it to suit, and you'll have very accurate and very quick shadows, obviously assuming that you've modelled everything in 3D. Okay, so there's the shadows for the properties. Now that actually, as is a kind of accepted technique, the black shadow like that, but I think that's a bit harsh and it doesn't quite speak to the example that we've been provided by one of our members. So I will hit that. Let's do 35. I think that looks nice. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate that and call it shadows blade. Now the reason I'm making a duplicate is sometimes you want to go back and do something. So that one we'll hide, but we'll use it in case we make a mistake down the line. So then we'll go blur, Gaussian blur in filters, and we'll give it 2 pixels. Just softens it off. I think that looks really nice. Okay, so that's the shadows for the buildings. I think the only thing we're missing now are some nice trees. Now for the trees, I've got to give a shout out to one of my very, very favourite YouTube channels, Show It Better, and I've actually purchased the Urban Trees pack. I encourage you to support YouTubers and platforms. The more revenue we make, the more we can create and help. And in this pack, there is a Photoshop file. Sorry, that's a black and white one. Hold on. There is a Photoshop file with these absolutely beautiful overhead trees. So I'm going to select them all in the layers. Drop them in. Now they've landed in the shadows group. So let me just create a trees group, and you can see how neat my layer stack is there. If there's ever any changes going forward, you'll be very thankful for that. Right. So then what I want to do, right, is I want to duplicate them. And see the way the direction of the sun is kind of top right to top left. So I'm going to move them over towards the top right. I'm then going to select all the coloured ones and merge. Select the ones underneath and merge. And then I'm going to hit Adjustments, Desaturate. And then just take the brightness right down, and you can see there that we're getting that really nice shadowing effect. I'm just going to duplicate and multiply just to strengthen the shadow in there, and then we're going to hit filter and then just hit the top one there just to repeat that blur, and we're going to drop the opacity to 35% as well. Is that the same as what we did? Yes, right. Okay. Then I'm going to merge them again because we've now kind of built the tree, if you like. And then I'm just going to select that one and hit cut and paste. It gives us a new layer, so that's tree 1. Go back to the main layer, cut, paste. Tree 2. I think we'll delete that one because that's a little bit unusual compared to the others. Cut, paste. Tree 3. And then what's left can be called tree 4. Then what we want to do is we want to make duplicates of them. And we want to keep those originals, so we turn them off. And then what we do is we dot these around. Now what I prefer to do is, again, just keep the drawing layer on top. And you can see it just keeps the line work, but then the tree underneath just adds a little bit of texture, a little bit of depth. Okay. And then it's just a nice process. I say nice because it's quite therapeutic of just copying that round. Scale, rotate. I won't go too mad with that just now, but make sure you're constantly kind of scaling and rotating and whatever. It just builds in that bit of variation. It doesn't have to be an exact match as well. I think it looks quite interesting when you just go against it slightly, the line work. Not too much, but you know what I mean. You might want to have a specific tree type for certain areas of the site. So you might have this tree type for those within the properties, in a similar way to how we've organized the textures. This was an amazing project, by the way, as well. This garden area is a facility for local schools, care homes, obviously residents as well. But it's that kind of community asset, building in that really nice bit of green space for the area. Project that we're very proud of, actually. So I think that gives enough of an idea. I won't bore you with going over every single tree, but you can see there that we've produced a very nice rendered site plan, and by using proper techniques and masks and groups and the correct layers and so on, it hasn't took us a very, very long time. So this should take a little bit of the pressure off as well. Okay, so we'll leave the photoshopping there. I may mess with opacities a little bit more, but we'll leave the photoshopping there. We'll take this into InDesign and we'll just add that little bit of kind of diagrammatic overlay. So I'll see you in InDesign. Next one. Right, so we're in InDesign, and I have exported the rendered site plan from Photoshop as a JPEG. You might want to use a different file format. That's absolutely fine. You can actually affect the crop here as well. This is a good opportunity to finish the thing off with, you could put a logo on it. Where are we? Workspace. So I hate the way InDesign has messed with the formatting. Our font is Helvetica. So you could put a logo there, nice and easy. And a title. You get the idea. That's not how I'd leave it, of course. But you get the idea. InDesign is the best place to finish off your drawings in terms of labeling and putting on sheets and boards. Don't stick to Photoshop for that because the file sizes are insane in it. absolutely rinses your computer. So what we're going to use for the little Google pins is a website called Flat Icon. It's absolutely brilliant. We're going to download it. And we're going to credit the author. Which I think is free pick there. Anyway, we're using it for educational purposes. Free download. Yeah, right. So then we drag and drop it, and it comes in as a PNG, so it's easy to manipulate. It has no background, and then what you do is you can then just select that and copy and paste it around. You might want to highlight local monuments, local landmarks, anything like that. You might even want to just take a little bit of transparency as well out of the backdrop. Let me just turn the display performance back to typical just so it responds a bit better. And then you can go St. Andrew's Church. We can obviously give it the right font. And what you can do here when you're labeling is you can give the text box a border and a fill. Like so. You mightn't want that, but it's something worth knowing. I think they're like care lodges, you know, something like that. Copy paste here. I would call this something like proposal site or project site. I think that's like, you know, local school. Obviously you'd give it a name. And so on. You get the idea there. Okay, so that's how we can label things, you know, just you know, the use of a nice icon. That website Flat Icon has tons of them as well, tons of different colours, different styles of just any icon really. There's nothing you can't if I type in building, you can see all these example buildings there, so you know, your imagination can run wild with that. And then if we want to highlight routes, we then use the pen tool, and you can, in a similar way to Photoshop, you can bend it, you can turn corners, and what you do is you give it a colour. You give the stroke a colour. So if we go yellow, if we go yellow, and then we can change the thickness. So you could just go a nice solid colouring like that. Or you can actually change the line style through this list here. It is absolutely brilliant. You needn't go beyond this list here to identify everything you need to identify. I quite like the dots. There's the diamonds, and these can all identify different things, different types of traffic. It could be wind direction. It could be foot traffic. Absolutely anything. And then what you do is so that could be a route there, could be a route there, something like that. Red. You know, you give it different thicknesses to sort of set different priorities. And then before you know it, once you start populating that, you've got a really nice rendered site plan with your diagrammatic overlays. And as ever, if there's any questions, drop me an email on adam@archademia.com. Cheers.